So my guest today is the amazing Benjibruce. He's a mentalist and motivational speaker and has been booked by huge corporations like Remax and Intel. If you want to know his fee, you won't be able to afford him. He's also the owner of SpeakingLifestyle.com, where he teaches speakers how to get high-paying gigs. Now, Benji is a very humble guy and doesn't like to brag at all. Benji, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great to talk to you. So, you're a mentalist. Your origin is a mentalist, and you started with restaurant gigs.
Yeah. I just started out doing a lot of restaurant magic. So I would basically go door to door and try to get hired by restaurants to perform some magic. And I did a lot of that. I did that for over 10 years. And then I switched to mentalism, where I like the psychology behind magic. So I switched to doing a lot of mind reading. And from there, I just booked a lot of corporate events, and I got hired through the corporate market. But it all started with the restaurant gigs.
Yep, and I also saw some teachings of you online how to get better restaurant gigs. So you started from going from mentalism to the corporate gigs like you get 20,000, 10,000, and now you're teaching other speakers how to get those rates.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing.
So I've been watching your videos for a couple of months now, and you're a real content machine. You've explained in the videos how you do this, but you bring out a lot of content. Can you talk us a little bit about your strategy, how to do that?
So basically, the way I produce a lot of content is I just kind of force myself to get really structured. So I basically said, okay, on this day, I'm only gonna work on creating the content, writing out the bullet points of what I'm gonna say. Then on this day, I'm gonna film everything. And I thought, how can I do this in a very fast way? Because at first I used to write a lot, and I thought, let me write some blog posts, let me do the SEO stuff, and I figured I'm better on video and I'm better just creating videos. So I started creating videos because I could run through a lot of videos like instantly. I could just record 30 videos all in one day in a couple of hours, if that, and then instantly upload those, schedule everything for like an entire month or 2 months. And so that's essentially what I would do with creating content. Is I got everything set up in Asana, so I have Asana.com, and I just set up like boards inside of there in terms of what I'm going to write, what I'm going to create. And I have little things. I thought of little things like as I was recording with my DSLR camera, I would have this Bluetooth remote, so I don't have to actually stand up and click record and then go back down and sit back down and stand back up and go click record to stop. And then like I wouldn't have to do that. I could just press the button, so I could record videos just really, really fast, and I could get through them. So that's kind of what I would do with a lot of the content. And the strategy really, it really was just, let me just create a ton of stuff. That was the strategy, because what I realized after looking at a lot of people's content is you never actually know what's going to like really work. So you can't really predict it. And so what a lot of people do, I can't remember, there's a book called, now I'm forgetting the book. It's by the guy who wrote the originals. It's like Adam something, I believe. Adam Grant, I think that's his name. Mm-hmm. And in the book, he was talking about successful people in general. And he was saying that a lot of successful people, they just create a lot of stuff. So they just do a lot, and that's the difference. And eventually when you do a lot, something's going to stick. And that's what I thought with the content. I said, you know what, let me just do a lot, and something is going to stick. And so that's kind of the psychology behind that.
And you're not doing this just for fun. You're running the business, SpeakingLifestyle.com, and there you teach speakers how to get gigs, how to get high fee gigs. So how did you, when did you decide to do this also, and why?
I decided because it was a couple things. So I know what it feels like to want to do something for a living, but to not know how, and you feel like nobody's really helping you. So that was kind of the first thing that was going through my head. And the second thing, I got pissed off at all this advice out there in terms of here's how you build a speaking business, here's how you make money as a speaker, and all this stuff. And people would say some basic information that you could read out of a $10 book, and it's stuff like, oh, you got to learn how to sell yourself. I'm thinking, well, duh. And so I would get pissed off at all these people because I was actually doing it. And I thought to myself, like, man, these guys, they're just making money selling the products, and it's obvious they've never actually contacted a company. They don't even have a single review from a real company who hired them. So I was getting pissed off, and I was like, you know what? Let me put out some real stuff in terms of here's how it really works. And that's essentially what I started doing. And that's why I started training the speakers.
Okay. Did you start with local speakers maybe, or did you create a website right away?
No, I just created a website right away. I didn't want to, my basic thinking was I didn't want to do anything in person with Speaking Lifestyle. So I wanted it to be 100% online, because everything I do in person, it's hard to go from charging $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for a presentation to doing a presentation for free. And so that's why I said, you know what? If I'm going to do stuff for free, I'm just going to create videos for free. I'm not going to go speak at an event for free about Speaking Lifestyle. So I basically made a decision where everything with Speaking Lifestyle is going to be online. I'm not going to go fly out to an event and talk about this marketing stuff unless they're paying 15, 20, 25 grand. That's essentially what I wanted to do, is just all of it is just online. I just started the website and that was it.
So for a lot of entrepreneurs, speakers, you mentioned amounts of 20,000, 25,000, that's mind-blowing to them. How is this possible without being writing a book or being on a TEDx or being really famous? How do you do that?
Yeah, so well, you got to think. All right, so fame is like, people don't really know what to associate with value, or people don't really know how to predict what's valuable, and the only way they know how to predict what's valuable is through association. So when you combine one thing with something else and you associate the two, that's how you determine its value. And so that's what was going through my head, because I don't have a book, well, at least not a book for like the everyday people. I've never spoken at a TEDx talk, none of that stuff. But what I did think is that if you do want to charge $10,000, you got to look like a $10,000 speaker. If you want to charge $20,000, you got to look like a $20,000 speaker. And so what I focused on was image. I said, okay, how do I make myself look like I'm already charging this before I actually ask for it? And so what I did is I just created a website. Well, my website, if they go to Benjibruce.net, that's where they'll see my main website for the speaking and entertainment. And I created this site, and I focused on the images on the site, the logos, and the names of like companies that I had presented for. So there's very well-known companies like Remax, Aflac, Ashley Furniture, Furniture First, Best Buy, all kinds of different companies that I said, okay, look, you can see reviews with these guys. And I posted all that stuff on my website to basically think, how can I make myself look like a freaking celebrity? So when they Google me, they're like, my goodness, this guy looks like a celebrity. He looks like Jay-Z. And so that was kind of the state of mind that I was trying to go into in order to get to that point where I could charge so much. And I knew this worked when I did an event out in Finland, and they basically contacted me like a little over a year. It was like a year and, I don't know, 3 months or something. They contacted me asking me to do a presentation in Finland. And so eventually we agreed to everything. They paid to bring me out and everything. It was like 20, 25 grand to bring me out. And so when I got there, I usually ask people like, oh, well, why did you hire me? And how did you find me? And I always ask them, like, how did you hear about me multiple times? That way I can really see how they heard about me. And so what he said something interesting. He's like, well, to be honest, I didn't know if we would be able to afford you or if you'd be like booked up already. And I'm thinking like, dang, they paid 20, 25 grand to bring me out. They booked me over a year in advance, and he thought I'd charge more and he thought I'd already be booked up. So that's when I realized, like, okay, my image is pretty good right now.
And they said, yeah, but this was a special discount for you.
No. Well, I couldn't say it. I was kind of mad. Yeah. I was like, man, I could way more. I was like, man, if you thought I'd charge way, I should have said like 50 grand instead. So yeah, it's like a lot of people think in terms, I got to write a book or I got to do a TED talk or something like that to like build my brand, to build my image. And that's not actually what builds your image. Just because you have a book, that doesn't mean anything. There are a gazillion speakers out there who have a book who can't get on a stage to save their life. And it's not about the book. It's about, oh, you're a best-selling author, and oh, you've been on all these TV channels because of your book. That's what gets you on there. So, or that's what increases your fees. And so that's essentially what I focused on was I don't need a book. I can just get on TV. So I got myself on Fox and all these other channels, and I said, all right, let me put this on my website.
And you have images of that on your website and also the movies. So how did you get on Fox?
Well, I just contacted the producers. So one of the things that I tried in the beginning is whenever people say to get PR, you have to send out a press release. And I tried that in the beginning. I was like, okay, let me write a press release. It's brilliant. Oh my goodness, Benji, you're so amazing. I mean, I didn't write that in the press release, but I was writing and I'm thinking
the energy was there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm writing this stuff and I'm thinking, okay, cool. They're going to definitely bring me on. And I sent it out to all these producers and it was just crickets. I didn't hear anything from anybody. And so I said, okay, well, maybe that was just that thing. So I wrote another one. I did it like 2, 3, 4 times. And it was just crickets. I didn't get any responses. I said, okay. So I just went to the producer's Facebook page. I sent him a Facebook message. And it was literally like 2, 3 sentences. I said, hey, I noticed you're the producer of Fox. What do you think about bringing a mentalist on TV? And I could do like some mind reading demonstrations with the news anchors. And then she said, yeah, sure. When can you come here? I thought, dang, that was easy.
Boom.
And so I did that with all the producers, and I just sent Facebook messages. And the one in San Diego, that was a little different because I was doing an event out in San Diego, and it just so happens that I showed a guy. I was eating at a restaurant, and I showed a guy like where I bend a quarter, and I showed him this demonstration. He thought it was cool, and he said like, hey, what do you think about coming to our grand opening later on today, and you can actually just perform or something. And usually I say no to that stuff. But he was like, oh, there's going to be like some news anchors here. So I said, okay, sure. And so I go there and I saw the news anchors and I did something for them. And she said like, hey, I can actually bring you on TV if you want. And so they got me on TV the very next day. So.
Great.
Yeah.
So what do you say to people who say, like, Benjibruce, he's amazing, he's a mentalist, so that's easy because he has mind-blowing material?
Oh, what do I say to that?
Well, not literally, but you say, shut up and get some good stuff.
Well, I basically say that's the point. Like, why would you ever create a brand where people can copy you? A lot of people say, like, oh, yeah, but you're a mentalist. I can't do that. And I say, that's the point. You think Tony Robbins created a brand where people can copy him? You think Walmart created a brand where people can copy them? You think Apple created a brand where people can copy them? You'd have to be an idiot to create a brand where people can copy you. So I basically said, yes, that's the point. And so the marketing tactics and the marketing strategies are similar. So in order for me to get on a stage, it's just me sending out emails. That's really simple. But in order for them to actually hire me, I now have to demonstrate why am I different from everybody else who sent them out a million different emails. And so when people say, yeah, but you're a mentalist, and I say, well, I mean, Tony Robbins isn't a mentalist and he has a bigger business than me. I'm kind of mad about that. But it's like, the whole point is you build something that people can't copy. Like you'd have to be an idiot to build something people can copy.
True. So in Speaking Lifestyle Academy, how many, do you have an example of somebody you helped to get better gigs? A person who isn't a medalist?
Yeah, I mean, there's the one guy. I actually sent an email out about him, a guy named Jake, where he was a youth speaker. And he basically bought a program of mine where I teach all the speakers how to find events and how to contact events. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone get a gig as fast as him. It was ridiculously fast. He bought the program on a Monday, and on a Wednesday, he was like, hey, man, I already booked a corporate gig. I'm thinking like, dang, what in the world? And I mean,
How did you do that for references?
Well, he just contacted me. He just literally used the program and he just contacted people where he was just sending out the emails structured in the right way. And he just contacted people nonstop. And then, I mean, he already had a website. Like he was already a full-time speaker in the youth market. And so it's not like he was a complete beginner. If you're a complete beginner, it's going to be hard for you. That there's no doubt, because if you don't have video footage, if you don't have a website, it's going to be a lot harder for you. And so he was already a full-time speaker. He already had videos and everything of him on stage in the college market and in like high schools, but he wanted to get into the corporate market. He wanted the higher paying ones. And so that's why he bought the program, and then bam, he got booked really fast. And I even said that in the email, like, hey, I don't think anybody will be able to duplicate his results because this is ridiculously fast, but this is pretty cool. And so I think a lot of times, I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of people make excuses about why they can't do something. They say, yeah, but you're different. You're a mentalist. You're a juggler. You're a comedian. You're this, you're that. And when they make the excuses, that's literally the reason why they will not build a business. And like you will never see someone like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates say, oh man, he built a business because of this. And so I can't do it. Instead, they do the exact opposite. They look at someone and they say, okay, well, he's different than me. So let me figure out what I can use. And that's what Sam Walton from Walmart did, where he would go to all stores, all kinds of different stores, the competitor stores, and he would look to see what can he take. He would say, what can I copy from these guys? And that's what he would do. He didn't say, oh, my goodness, Kmart's so big. They're all over the place. I can't do anything. He would just say, oh, okay, Kmart's aisles are, 4 feet apart. I'm going to use that in my stores as well. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things I see with a lot of people is they essentially say, yeah, you're different. So I don't know if I can copy that. And I say, well, one, that's the point. But two, you essentially want to figure out what can you copy? What can you do? Because if you come up with an excuse for why you can't, then you will literally be broke forever.
So how did you learn the trade?
The trade in terms of just business?
The speaking trade, yeah.
Well, it was a combination. I read a lot and I was doing a lot. So that it's like I've never actually had a job my entire life. It's just been me building my business my entire life. So in the beginning, when I was doing the restaurant stuff, I would go door to door to restaurants, and I would go door to door, and I'd have to learn how to pitch them and things like that. And so when I would pitch and I realized that, hey, these guys aren't really interested, I would now read a book on selling. And I say, okay, let me change up how I pitch. And then I'd pitch them again, and I would change things like that. And so it was a combination of reading a lot and doing a lot. And basically for every hour I would spend reading, I'd spend 3 hours actually doing. And so that was one of the reasons why I got mad at all the advice that was out there, because all the advice, I thought, it's clear that these guys have never done any of this stuff ever.
They just teach other people how to make money speaking.
Yeah, and I tend to tell people the opposite. A lot of people say, a lot of the stuff selling, people say in 30 days you can accomplish this. And I sit there and say look, in 3 years you may accomplish something. I don't think people realize the level of ambition that's required to accomplish just half of the things they want to accomplish. And so a lot of real entrepreneurs get this, where they say yeah, it took me a long time to get here. But when people are trying to start something new, especially speaking business, they don't realize what it actually takes. So they just get demotivated. They try to contact people, and then a week goes by where they get all these no's, and then they're like, oh man, this stuff doesn't work. And I say man, that's ridiculous. I went for months, years of hearing no's before I could actually build some momentum. And so people just get demotivated too much.
Could you give an example of the amount of people you contact before you get a yes? Maybe back in the days, not right now, because they book you right away.
A lot easier. So back in the days, basically I would contact 100 people a day. And I don't, the problem with back in the day is I didn't have a system set up. My whole system was literally, I woke up, let me just send some emails, and then if I can remember who to reply to, I'll remember who to reply to. That was my system back in the day. I didn't CRM, nothing. And so all I would do is I would just count in terms of making sure I could get around 100 people a day. At least I could talk to 100 people a day. And so what I would do is I would do a combination of that with a combination of how do I improve my website? So I would think in terms of how do I get testimonials from people and things like that to improve my website. That way I could increase the chances of me getting hired when they saw my website. And so there really isn't a number in terms of here's how many people you contact before you get hired. It's more a matter of it depends. It depends on how good your image is, how good your website is, how good your personal brand is, combined with how many people you contact and what you say when you contact them. Because in fact, that's another thing where I was talking with a guy inside the program that I have, where I show them here's how you talk to people and here's how you contact them. And this is where I see a lot of people, they mess up, because I'll give them templates and I'll say, here's literally the template that I use. But when you contact people, you want to customize the template. And so one of the guys, what happened was, in the beginning, the first email that you send out is something like, hey, I was wondering who hires the speakers for your event. And that's pretty much it. And then they reply, they say like, oh, either like we don't pay speakers. There's only a certain amount of responses that they can respond with. And when people say we don't pay speakers, there's a template that I have for that. And so what this guy did is he copied and pasted the template. I said, oh man, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have copied and pasted it. You should have customized it, because the person who responded to him, she said something like, oh yeah, JJ doesn't really hire the speakers. She brings in her personal friends or something like that. Yeah. And so I went to the website and I saw that one of her friends are actually, I mean, she has like some pretty well-known friends. And so I saw this on the site and I said, what you should have responded with is you should have said, well, it looks like JJ's pretty connected because I saw so-and-so at the event. How do I become one of her friends? Here's some information. And so you customize it like that. And when people, if speaker A can customize an email like that, they'll get booked a lot faster than the speaker who doesn't customize it. And the speaker who just says, hey, I'm a great speaker for your event. And so that's why there really is no number in terms of here's how many people you can contact before you get booked. It's a matter of how well you execute.
No, of course not a number, but I'm talking about people who say, yeah, I contacted 5 people and that's it. Yeah, the amount of work is huge that you have to do.
Yeah, I just want to pimp slap those people. I'm like, what's wrong? Contacting 5-10 people a week. Come on now.
And also, I also want to talk to you about your YouTube channel, because you became a little bit different. A lot more of you became into the videos. A lot more humor. What made you do that? The transition. You were a lot more serious in the beginning.
Yeah, well, because in the beginning I was thinking, okay, let me just create some videos. No, I gotta just be professional and all that stuff. And then I started getting bored. Like I was writing these emails and I'm creating videos and I'm getting bored. I mean, this is me as an entertainer on stage. I'm used to just entertaining a group of people. And so I'm sitting here recording videos, writing emails, and I'm like, man, it's kind of boring. So I did it for myself. I mean, I was like, you know what? Let me just say some ridiculous stuff in these videos or write some ridiculous stuff in these emails. And I would literally laugh. Like I would be in a Starbucks. I'm writing an email where I say ridiculous things like I'd started out, hey, I know that you love me more than you love your kids. So I would literally laugh at myself while I'm writing this stuff. I'm like, oh, that's good. And so I was basically entertaining myself as I was creating the videos. And I do this a lot with friends as well. So with like all my friends who really know me, I'm like really sarcastic with them. And so I say ridiculous stuff. Like whatever you see in the video, I say 10 times that stuff with my actual friends. And so I just thought, you know what, this is pretty different and it's pretty funny to me. If people don't like it, that's up to them. So that's essentially why I started doing that in the videos.
Yeah, and I like it. It's my kind of humor. So you only get the customers that you like, who understand that kind of humor. Otherwise, they'll be boring for you also.
Yeah, and I really thought about it because a lot of it is sarcasm. And sarcasm is really humor for smart people, because in order for you to understand sarcasm, you actually do have to be kind of smart to understand what it actually
Thank you,
is.
Benji.
So,
I appreciate it. And you also, by the way, you're also a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
Is that a little bit of the Tony Robbins thing?
Yeah. I called myself a speaker at first just for the image, because when I called myself a magician, people would say, oh, can you do my kids' party? Yeah. I'm thinking like, man, I don't do no kids' parties. And so then I said, I'm a mentalist. No one really knew what that was. So I could still kind of charge what I wanted to. But when I said speaker, a lot of people associate speaker with high fees. So I said, all right, let me just be a speaker. And then people actually wanted me to speak. So I said, all right, let me just do a motivational talk. So that's essentially why I started doing the motivational speaking. And also because I just really see a lot of people, they just need help with their state of mind. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very cool. Also, you started your own podcast. It's called Benjibruce, I think it's called. Just it's tons of motivation about the great how great people get ahead. I enjoy it very much. So if people want to contact you for the Speaking Lifestyle, go to speakinglifestyle.com. You have several programs. Can you talk a little bit about those programs?
Yeah, the speakinglifestyle.com, that's just the programs to help people who want to be speakers, experts, coaches, consultants, where I just help them get on stages, help them do their marketing, and help them market themselves. So they can go there, they can watch all types of videos, look at the programs, sign up to the email list. And if they just want to learn about me in general, they could just Google me and just type in Benjibruce, or go to benjibruce.com, benjibruce.net, benjibruce.org, any one of those.
Yeah, and also I wonder how actionable are those programs, because the YouTube videos that you create are incredibly valuable on their own. So what else is there in the programs?
Well, the programs go into more detail. So it's like there's some good stuff in terms of the free videos, and if people like the free videos, they'll be impressed by the actual paid stuff. And so the actual paid stuff goes into way more detail in terms of whichever thing they're paying for. So like if they pay for the event finder, where it talks about how to find and contact events, this is where I go into, here's like exactly what you say, here's the systems that you want to use, and I like really go into detail. Whereas with the videos, I just say simple stuff like, hey, you need to start contacting people. So,
but how bad it's by the program? Now you go into more detail than that in the videos. It's more than that. No, I think it's very unique. I don't see this kind of business in Holland. So it's very cool how to see how you're doing this, and I'm watching it. I'm not a speaker yet, but I'm watching all of your videos because they're very funny and I enjoy them. And to all the people who are listening, go to his website, go to the YouTube videos. They are amazing. So Benji.
Yeah, and I want to say this. Yeah. So even though you're out in Holland, and a lot of people tend to email me like, hey, I don't live in the US. Does this stuff work for me? And I always say, like, marketing is marketing. It doesn't matter where you live. If you want to make an excuse as to I live somewhere else other than the US and that's why it won't work, then that excuse will literally hold you back. And so I always tell people it doesn't matter where you live. Marketing is marketing.
Yeah, very cool. Benji, thank you a lot. Thanks very much. And good luck, man.
Cool. Thanks for having me.